Danger Carroll. Good morning, sir.
Rich Brown, what's up, my friend?
Another day, another dollar.
That's right.
You can relate, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I love it. You've changed your background a little bit. Is that Pepper?
No, that's my old dog Farley.
Really? I didn't think the snout looked quite like Pepper.
No, and he's white. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Nice.
He's a lab mix.
He's a good-looking fella.
He was a great dog, man.
How long did you have him?
10-ish years.
Yeah. It's amazing how important they are.
Man, they really become a part of you. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
we lost Mary a few months back and got her big, beautiful headstone, and our face engraved on it. I mean, it's like losing somebody in the family. It truly is. I mean,
and yeah, man, Pepper's been such a huge part of my life. She goes pretty much everywhere with me, and I know it's coming. She's still in great health, but she's definitely aging, and it's just part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we've been friends for 8 years now, which is crazy to think it's been that long. But Pepper's been there the whole time. I mean, you and her are almost indistinguishable.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
but for now, she's a healthy girl. So
that's right.
Justin is on today because we're going to talk about. Is it okay if I show the book?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Bad boys and girls. Look at that. Look at this thing. It weighs a ton. You literally need a back brace to carry it. How many pages did it end up being?
It is literally at the limit. It is 590 pages, which is as long as I could make it in this size format. I think I could have bumped up to like kind of a non-standard size and gone to like 750 pages or something, or 700 pages, but I am literally at the limit with 590 and these aren't I'm going to brag about this a little bit. Like, these aren't fluffy pages, there's 25 pictures in this thing, I think. But these things are full of freaking text. It's it's not double spaced like a high school book report or something. It's a lot of freaking words in this thing. 325,000 words.
Damn. Will Rhodes is on. Tony is on from Rhode Island. Peter is on from Rhode Island as well. He's coin number 2604. Will Rhodes is coin number 2269. Well, do you know your coin number off the top of your head?
No, I just looked at it the other day too. It's not very low, which is weird because hell, man.
8 years, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. You want me to go get it?
No, it's okay. But for those that are listening to the podcast, are like, what are they showing off? What are they talking about? We're talking about competent and dangerous. Master the skills to be a man among men by Justin Danger Carroll, forward by your old pal Rich Brown.
That's right.
And Justin has been on the show many, many times over the last 8 years. Justin's, of course, one of the best friends I've ever had in this life, and probably many other lives I may have or not have. But yes, seriously, Justin is also a former Marine, former MARSOC operator, Force Reconnaissance Marine over 3rd Recon. Oh, Kent Schwab, the armpit of the planet, as far as I'm concerned. Then went on to do some OGA contracting. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, you've listened to Justin Carroll several times. Speaking of Marines, good morning, brother. Cruz is on. Says heading back to Israel in the AM. Well, be safe over there, my dear friend. You know what to do. If you can't stay safe, stay dangerous. My friend. So tell us about this book, man. Thank you to the 5 folks watching live. Please like and hit that share button. What was the impetus for this thing? Origin story. Where do you want to go?
Should have come out to get a little stronger on this episode, since this is my book, pimping the book.
Oh, this is the launch episode, kind of.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So this thing comes out on November 1st, which means, ladies and gentlemen, you have 55 days before Christmas to get this thing under the Christmas tree to your husband, your sons, your daughters, your nieces, nephews, whoever could use a little bit more competence in their life. This is the book for them. This is the book I wanted to write when I was 26 years old. I literally still have a manuscript that not the same title, but it's kind of like, man, I want to write a book that's like all the skills a man should know. And this is definitely not all of them. Like I said, I hit the page limit, and I kind of hit my limit of being able to sit and continue working on this thing. I started this a little over 3 years ago. This has been a labor of love. But this is the book I wanted to write when I was 26 years old and didn't really have the knowledge or the credentials to back it up. I mean, who would read this book by this guy who, hasn't really done most of these things? And now I'm, almost 2 decades older than that. I have done most of these things. I have experience with everything I talk about. I'm not just, I'm not just a guy who was, who did one thing and then that qualifies him to write about all these other things. I've actually trained or had experience in all these areas that I write about. This is also the book that I wanted to read at 16 years old. When I was 16, I would have loved for someone to hand me this and be like, hey, bro, you're going to do a lot of cool things in your life. You're going to go a lot of places. You're going to be in the military and climb mountains and jump out of airplanes and scuba dive. And this is the book to prepare you for the way. This is going to set you just a little bit ahead with a bunch of knowledge that, like ultimately took me 25 years of adventuring to accumulate through, military service and being a paramedic and a cop and a search and rescue tech and a locksmith and all these other weird little adventures I've had along the way. So that's what the book's about. Well, that's where the book comes from. What it's about: 12 chapters, each covering a pretty radically different topic. Chapter 1 is mental and physical preparedness or resilience, mindset, physical fitness, that sort of thing. Chapter 2 is EDC, which is, it took me 25 years to figure out, I guess 20 years to figure out the shit I wanted to carry in my pocket every day. It's like, I wish somebody had been like, hey man, here's what you need. Here's how here's how you pick these things out. And chapter 3 is on financial preparedness. And I'm not a financial planner or not the most literate person on that, but I wish I'd have had some financial advice like this when I was 16 years old. Chapter 4 is mobility. Some basic stuff for your vehicle, taking care of your vehicle.
Let's pause right there.
Yeah.
Because I want to break down and kind of linger on a few of these topics. In chapter 4, as far as mobility goes, is something that, you and I believe a lot about, vehicle preventive maintenance. Matter of fact, so much so that when you and I had Across the Peak, you put out a book, an Across the Peak manual on how to, handle preventive maintenance on your vehicle. And I got copies of it, and I took my sons out and I taught them how to use the thing. We put it in their glove box along with a pen. But before we get to mobility, let's start with chapter 1, and we'll just kind of do a little deep dive into a few of these. Tell me about chapter 1, Justin.
So chapter 1, physical, it's broken into 2 parts, and I struggled with how to do that. I didn't want to make a new chapter, but it's almost like 2 chapters in one. So physical preparedness, which covers I think 3 or 4 big topics: diet, exercise, sleep, and then addictive substances like alcohol, tobacco, nicotine, how to treat those substances in your life. Obviously, I'm not for the total exclusion of those things, but the responsible use. Diet, man, it's a lot of just basic stuff on diet, like how to understand kind of calories and, read ingredient labels and that sort of thing. But, when I was in my 20s, all I gave a shit about was how much protein is in this. And I'd go to Burger King and be like, there's 46 grams of protein in a Big Mac and a Whopper meal. Like, this is great. Not realizing all the other crap I'm getting with it. And I wish I'd had that education at a younger age. There's a big caveat in here that if you're a guy my age, you probably have a lot of your own ways to do this stuff. And I'm not telling you your way is wrong. I'm not telling you got to switch to my way. This is for it's for a person that's kind of directionless and just eating the standard American diet, or, doing as it applies to whatever chapter. If you got your own way of doing things, I'm not trying to tell you wrong. Person that has no God. The mental resilience part is just kind of being mentally tough. I definitely think we've lost that. I probably could have I think I rewrote that whole section 2 times, and I probably could have rewritten it again. It's a hard thing to capture, but definitely a thing that and one thing I want to point out, this isn't just Justin Carroll's word. This isn't the last word on any of these topics. there's recommendations for dozens of books throughout this thing. Every single chapter, sometimes through further into this and learn a little bit more from the true experts. I know enough. I have some experience, some education, but here's how you go to learn from the, study at the feet of the real masters.
Yeah, there's book recommendations on every single chapter. So it's like, and I've told you this when I read through it, I don't know, a couple months ago. I love the fact that you have your anecdotal experiences, and then this is what the experts say. These are the 3 books I read on this topic. This is how I interlaced their teachings with my own experiences to give a very, very balanced approach to the whole thing. And I think that mental resilience is not, I don't know that you can read about it in a book. I mean, I just absolutely don't think that that's something that you're going to have to be wet, hungry, tired, and push past it. And you do that enough, get punched in the face and stand back up, those kind of hard skills that this generation, thankfully, let's be honest, they didn't, most men have never been in a fist fight. And in some level, that's a good thing. On another level, that's a terrible thing because you don't know how to handle it, right?
Not only that, but rites of passage, right? They're increasingly small, and I don't know that they're that fewer than there were when I was coming up, but it was. I feel like there was a little more. Said this, but I feel like there was at least a little more drive to go out and have some sort of grand experience, some sort of rite of passage. For me, that rite of passage was the Marine Corps boot camp. That was, man, earth shattering for me. We talked about you and I have texted a little bit back and forth about the show Boots. Man, it is such a good representation of Marine Corps boot camp. All the little details are, it's amazing. That was earth shattering for a kid from, Southern Appalachia who had never been further than Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to, suddenly just earth changing, like nothing has probably had such a long lasting or big impact in my life as Marine Corps boot camp. And I've done so much more since then. But if I hadn't had that, that introduction, that foundation, I'd probably be a different human being today.
I wish everybody could have a foundational experience like that. They just, there's a lot of utility to it. It's a 13-week interview process. You get to interview the Marine Corps basically, and they get to interview you and find out if you're going to be the right fit, and you're molded along the way into somebody that I think ultimately society's better off with.
Yeah. And, counterpoint, I was thinking this morning that the more I've done in my life, the less my military experience matters. I feel like the stuff I've done in the last 5 or 10 years is almost looms larger than, the military stuff I did many years ago. And I'm trying.
I think it's hard to say, man, because it's almost indistinct. How do you disentangle the person you became from, the person you are now?
The other day, and heard a paramedic bitching like, I'm too damn old to start over. I hate this job, but I can't go do something new. And I'm like, how old are you, bro? And he's like, I'm 28 years old. I was like, yeah, I got into this 11 years older than you are. I'm pretty sure you can go something else. But that it's never too late to start over, be who you want to be, or accomplish what you want to accomplish. I mean, the Marine Corps, I think some of that drive and determination, stems from that initial experience. But I think if I'd have been started doing what I'm doing now, still be kind of a badass.
Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, you certainly don't have to be in the Marine Corps to be a badass.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
No, of course not. But I think those rite of passage experiences, especially for young men, are important. And the more we get further and further away from them, I think it does not bode well for our overall society. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And the Marine Corps, even the Marine Corps continually, seems easier and easier than it was when I went through, and it was easier when I went through than it was when you went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back to the book. You said that this is the book you wish you had at 16 as kind of a roadmap for the future that you was laying ahead of you, of course, unknown to you at that time.
Yeah.
And I would also submit that because a moment ago you said that, hey, if you're somebody my age, I'll be 56 next month. Maybe there's not a whole lot to offer you. I absolutely disagree with that because I think that a 16-year-old that reads this is going to be a huge outlier.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in middle-aged men that come across this or will reach out and purchase this, good on you, bro, because guess what? I learned some things in here, like especially in the dog chapter. I have had a lot of dogs and I know that I'm not doing it right. And just some of the things that you put in here about how to train a dog, I'm like, well, no kidding. This just makes complete sense. And I've read dog training books and still didn't get it. So, and another thing, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. One of the things that is a running theme at the beginning of every single chapter is kind of the James Bond deal. And thank you to John Shriver. James is on. Dr. Gordon Botson is on. Thank you to everyone watching us live, and we'll listen to the podcast to come. But kind of break down the James Bond thing for us.
So every chapter begins with if you were hanging out with James Bond, and goes into like whatever the chapter is about. If you were hanging out with James Bond and somebody had a medical emergency, what would James Bond do? Would he freak out? Would he panic? Would he, I don't know, just call 911 and then kind of pace around nervously waiting on someone to get there? No, we all know what he would do. He would be the ultimate badass. He would take care of the situation with whatever materials he had at hand. He would make it work. It'd be amazing to watch. Whatever the topic may be, there's a James Bond reference. And the reason is I actually know people in real life who are like that. I know real life James Bonds. They work in the shadows, or, maybe they're retired. Maybe some of them are dead. I've got a, in memoriam to my friend T up there. These people exist, and you can be one of them. All it takes is the willingness to do it, to give yourself those skills and abilities and expose yourself to stressful situations, build that stress inoculation. And these are, just a few of the skills. And this book contains just a few of the skills to make you that dude. And this book isn't everything. You still have to go out and do stuff. You can't just read this book and then be like, oh, check the box on that. You still have to go out and do this stuff. But that's kind of the genesis of that James Bond thing. Is I can't name, if I did name dudes, you wouldn't know who the hell they were. And they wouldn't want their names and faces out there anyway. But these dudes exist, and you should want to be one of these dudes. You should want to be the guy that other guys want to be, and the guy that women want to be with.
Yeah, Dr. Gordon Botson, Dr. Jordan Peterson has a thing like, it's like, be the most competent man at your father's funeral. I guess that's kind of his James Bond kind of guy. Like at the funeral, who's everybody looking to? They'll be like, okay, you're the heir apparent, and I know this guy's got it. Be that guy.
Yeah.
So if James Bond is not your cup of tea, which I think I love it because I can understand it. We saw, I forget which one of his movies, and what is his name? Daniel Craig. He slings a rifle expertly, by the way, well trained. His gun handling is amazing. He slings it across his suit. He adjusts his cufflinks and starts walking across this ledge on a roof, and if he could fall off either way and get killed, but he's just like at home in any situation. You never see him frazzled. And I think that's the whole competent and dangerous, folks. I mean, that's what it's all about. Be a man among men. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Right. Absolutely. So back to the chapters, I think we got to chapter 4. Chapter 5 is first aid. It's one of the ones I'm most proud of. I was able to really pour some of my paramedic experience into that. Talk about a handful of case studies, really able to speak from a place of experience. And again, this is where if I wrote this book at 26 years old, I wouldn't have had all these experiences and wouldn't have been able to provide. I feel like that chapter really pops. It's one of my favorite ones to write. I don't know, Rich, you say everything kind of seems to be cohesive and nothing really stands super high above the others, but that's one of my favorite ones. I really was able to pour a lot of recent experience into that chapter, and education and knowledge. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, knowing you, there's no like the other night at dinner, Lisa's like, you know what I think about when I drink this? And it was a mixed drink. I said, no, she's like, Justin Carroll. He's the one that taught me how to make this drink. But I think that that's a testament. And there's that in the book, how to, you talk about bourbon, you talk about how to make a cocktail, how to maneuver through a cocktail party with grace and style, and how to, have a engaging conversation and be, not the person. I don't remember talking to that guy last night. No, you'd remember.
Yeah.
So going back to the first aid one, there's so much practical stuff. And at 26, you weren't sitting on a college campus getting your master's, you were, running and gunning, tracking down HVTs in Iraq, or doing whatever the hell you were doing. So it wasn't like you didn't have some experiences where somebody may have been shot or what have you. But I think that now at this age and this level of training that you've now got, because I think you were an EMT back then, maybe.
Yeah, I was trained as one. I never worked, but yeah, the military sent me to EMT school.
But now you've got years of riding on a truck as a full-time paramedic. I mean, that's the guy that wrote the book at this age, right?
Yeah. That's the difference. I did have some experience, but it was very one-dimensional. And even I don't know. I think working in public safety has been just a wealth of experience for me. There's so much I've gotten out of this. I think everybody should spend a couple years as a cop, a firefighter, a paramedic, something.
I agree.
Because it teaches you so many little things, how to talk to people. It shows you a whole range of humanity. Like some people live like this in multi-million-dollar mansions, and still it looks like a fucking hoarder house inside. Yeah. Some people live in trailers that you could eat off Mama's floor. Some people, it just shows you a range of humanity. It teaches you to talk to people, to get out of your element, you're legally obligated to do things you're uncomfortable with. And I think everybody should have that experience too, of not just being able to go through life only doing things that they're comfortable with.
I agree. I know you probably know this. I don't know that everybody else does. When I went to the police academy back in the day, the departments had the option of, hey, if you want your guy to leave here, not only as a police officer, but also as a EMT, then they can do that as well. Well, what that meant was at the end of the day, when everybody else went back to their dorm room, I had to attend these EMT classes and do practicals and all that kind of stuff. So that at the end of the 4 or 5 months, I stepped away with that credential as well. And then also, if I was close, I would get the paramedic calls, the EMS calls, and I had my bag in the back of I'm saying all that to say, you are so right, man. Being a police officer, Justin, and you're a police officer now. What amazed me, let's say that a normal person lives their life. They ride in their own car. They ride in their friends' cars. And they ride in a variety of the very close families' cars. Outside of that, you don't ever see what somebody else's car looks like.
Sure.
These are people in your own socioeconomic whatever. But when you're a police officer, you stick your snout in all kinds of cars. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Somebody lives like this? Where's the seatbelts at? You're driving this car with a set of vice grips attached to a nut. This is not safe. And I think those levels of experiences, that's the guy who wrote this book now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm with the narcotics unit. Moped car that you search inevitably will have.
You broke up a minute, Justin. All we heard was you were with the narcotics unit, right?
I'm working with the narcotics unit for a couple of weeks. The long-haired guys, the plainclothes guys that run and rip like high, whatever. Like in one night, we pulled over 3 cars that had dope in them, which as a patrol, you're never going to do that. Like these guys have the intel and the whatever. One thing I'm finding hilarious is that you will never search a dopehead car. Well, I won't say never, but it's rare to search a dopehead's car and not find a sex toy in there. I don't know why.
We lost you after the sex toy thing, but Dr. Gordon Botson says trauma surgery gives you a lot of the same experiences. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that, man. You never know who's going to come to the ED, and it's like, it might be a squared away family and little Johnny got hurt in soccer practice, or it might be the person that's got a sex toy stuck in an orifice that can't get out, right? Who's high on meth at the same time, and the girlfriend's got restraining order again. I mean, it's just banana land.
Yeah.
So the first aid section, did you, and I know this, but I'm trying to tee you up here. Did you look at it only in terms of trauma or what?
No, absolutely not. So it focuses on patient assessment. Like the whole chapter is guided by patient assessment, which I think is one of the most important things of field care at the EMT level, the EMR level, the no certification level, paramedic level, whatever, out in the field. Assessment is one of the biggest things you can do because it's going to drive your treatment. If you can't assess the patient, then how the hell are you going to treat them? So we cover obviously some trauma stuff, bleeding, fractures, heat and cold exposure, that sort of stuff, but also medical stuff, diabetic emergencies, chest pain, CPR, heart attacks, seizures, kind of a little bit of the gamut of, stuff you're likely to encounter just as a human being going around in the world. It's almost a 100% certainty that any given individual out here who is, not military, not law enforcement, will never see a gunshot wound in their entire life. It's almost a certainty. So why don't you train for the things that you are likely to see? I've done CPR probably 100 to 1 for every tourniquet I've put on.
Wow.
I mean, actually probably more than that, because I've only ever put one single tourniquet on a person. I've been able to control bleeding with some other method every single time. And it's gunshot wounds, stabbings, car wrecks, you name it. Just tourniquets aren't really that important, to be honest with you. There's much more important stuff you could learn.
Yeah, you've got a new article on your amazing site, swiftsilentdeadly.com. I've got links in today's show notes, and you show a really horrific gash on somebody's arm, man. I mean, it is gruesome, and yet almost no bleeding, no tourniquet applied, So, and you make a great point in that article, like, look at this thing. You'd think, oh my God, tourniquet quick, but it's like, there's no arterial spray.
Actually,
there's no reason.
Assess the injury. Is it pouring blood? Sure, put a tourniquet on it. Is it not? Then maybe don't put a tourniquet on it. And, like now we're in this thing that tourniquets are harmless. They're not. They can cause some nerve damage. They can cause some tissue damage. They can cause compartment syndrome if they're left on long enough. They're not harmless. And we want to always do the least invasive, least damaging intervention. First, do no harm, right?
Yes.
I think tourniquets are great at what they do, but if you're only carrying a tourniquet, you're saying, I only care about my arms and legs. I don't care if I get shot in the chest or the gut or the neck or the head. And you can survive all of those things, but you should probably be prepared to treat them.
I'm gonna tell on myself. I'm embarrassed to tell this story, but you said be prepared to treat them. So thinking ahead, I got some vet bond. It's a surgical, bonding agent for injuries to your pet. And I had it in my kit for years. And the other day, the dogs were roughhousing, and my new Irish Wolfhound got a really significant tear on his ear, and he was bleeding it was gruesome, right?
Yeah, ears will bleed. Dog ears bleed like crazy.
They bleed bad. It's like a crime scene here. And we're doing everything we can, and damn, we can't find it. Finally, I get to the end of the bag, and I'm like, there's the vet bond. And I'm like, I totally forgot I had bought this, and it was the answer to the problem. So it's one of those things, man. You got to go through your kit, and you got to assess what you got. And from time to time, I mean, Seeklander, had a gunshot wound in a classroom, and in one of his classes, student shot himself on accident. So Mike gets his trauma kit out. Everything's planned. It's going like clockwork. He opens it up, puts on the latex gloves, and they disintegrate in his hand.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't been checking them. He hadn't been rotating them in and out, and they weren't there when he needed it. So, and he doesn't mind me telling the story because hopefully somebody will learn from that experience.
PPE is another thing. Personal protective equipment is another thing I harp on in that first aid section, because you don't know by looking at a person, you have no idea what what threats they may present to you. An example I use, the first patient I ever had who disclosed to me that they were HIV positive was a 75-year-old Methodist minister out of this, $500,000 house. And his little wife's like, he has HIV, honey. He got a blood transfusion in the 80s that was whatever. You don't know what anybody has. We make a lot of assumptions based on what people look like. you should carry some gloves. It's not to keep that wound sterile. It's to protect you, but also you don't want to be putting your filthy hands in somebody's wound. But yeah, like, man, that's not a thing that I want to have to live with for the rest of my life. That or hepatitis or any of the myriad things you can get from touching somebody's fluids.
Yeah, my FTO had a case where he was going on a call and some woman runs out in the hallway and she sees a police officer. She's like, "Oh, we've called an ambulance, but they're not here yet. Can you come in here? My boyfriend's dying." And he goes in there and this guy's got blood all over his mouth and he's laying back, dying. And, please start CPR. I mean, he's looking at that blood and he's like, "I don't have a bag. I don't put my mouth on this." And he's like, my FTO says, "I could hear the ambulance." It's like, "Ma'am, he's almost here. I've got this call down the hallway and I'll stay with you till they get here and get him up, help you out." Well, that night he goes home and the patrol lieutenant calls like, "Hey, did you give CPR to that guy? Yes or no? You got one chance to get this right." And he's like, "Oh crap. No, sir, I didn't." Thank God he had died of AIDS. If you had put your mouth on that blade,
Man, yeah.
Oof.
Also, yeah, don't put your mouth on people.
No.
In public.
Also, Justin, you mentioned something that really stuck with me. You didn't say it this morning, but you said it several episodes ago, and that was diabetes is a house of horrors. And that was one of the takeaways that you had as a paramedic from what you've seen. And then, like you said, in this first aid chapter, you talk about dealing with those kind of people having those emergencies. And a lot of times these are preventable, diabetes. I tell my kids now, anytime I see them eating junk, I'm like, Justin Carroll said that shit's a house of horrors, man. Stay away from that stuff. Put that poison down.
Yeah. Preventable, or at very least much more controllable than it is. I see so many people who just let it run completely unchecked, are, horribly obese, or and it complicates every other health condition you're ever going to have. My grandfather had it, and I guess ultimately died of congestive heart failure, but that was definitely a huge complicating factor in all his, treatment problems and whatever. And I wish I'd had a better understanding of it then. Unfortunately, there's, like this is kind of how you get that experience. Experience is what you get 5 minutes after you need it. Right. I kind of wish I'd have had some of this experience then. It would have definitely made me much more, I think, able to much better comprehend what was going on. But yeah, diabetes, it's literally modern day torture chamber of getting, feet and toes and limbs cut off. And it's just,
And what's funny is, and I'm sure you probably planned it this way. You've got your section on diet and exercise and everything, and then you get to the first aid. So it's like, it's all about kind of creating that healthy lifestyle, building the structure. And then we're somebody who is in a position where we can render aid to somebody else. And Dr. Gordon Watson says, uncontrolled diabetes is a house of horrors. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you're well controlled, you're dependent on expensive medications that you may or may not have in an emergency. And the rate of diabetes in the United States has skyrocketed in the last quarter century, however long. But yeah, it's, if you can control it or minimize it or work to reduce your chances of getting, and some things are uncontrollable, right?
Absolutely.
Heredity, absolutely uncontrollable. You can't control your genes, but you can control, eating 8 bags of Skittles and drinking 4 Monsters a day or whatever. That reduces your insulin sensitivity. Fiber, greatly increases your insulin sensitivity. Probably focus on getting some fiber in my diet if diabetes was a concern for me.
I know that I probably told you this. The physician that did my shoulder surgery was Harvard educated. He had been up in Boston doing all the New England Patriots shoulders. So he was an incredible physician. And he dropped dead a month after he did my shoulder. And, I remember when he was going over my MRI and everything, and he was like, it was his lunch break. And I'm like, "Hey, if you go eat lunch, we'll do this later." He's like, no. And he comes in, he's got a bag of Doritos and a Mountain Dew. And he sits down like, "That's what you're eating for lunch?"
Yeah.
And literally he was dead a month later at 34 years old. So I consider that the dead man's meal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no disrespect to the late Dr. Clark. He was a wonderful, wonderful man, father, husband. We knew his family. Turns out they lived a street away from us. We didn't even know it at the time. But I see that now, the Doritos and a Mountain Dew, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? That may have nothing to do with his heart failure, but I think it might have had something to do with just burning the candle at both ends and not taking care of yourself.
So one thing a couple things I put in this book. One, I give credit to a lot of other people, and two, this is a thinking man's book. It's not a exclude 100% of this from your life, or only eat this or only do that. It's a thinking man's book. Like, some thoughtful balance is required. You shouldn't live. I'm pretty sure I said almost exactly this. Shouldn't live like a monk, through your 20s, 30s, 40s, just so you can be healthy in your 90s. But you also shouldn't party like a rock star every day of your life just in case you get hit by a bus at 35, because you probably won't. Odds are you won't. You should also take care of the just in case I live to an old age. And I know it's a hard thing for a young person to wrap their head around, but just in case you live to be 75, you should probably prepare for that a little bit too. Back to the reference, like, I stand on the shoulder of giants. I didn't make any of this information up. I wasn't born knowing any of it. It all came from someone else. It was all taught to me by someone else. And I wanted to give credit to, tried to give credit to a lot of those people. I'm sure I failed in many, many cases, but absolutely none of this information is unique to me, except maybe some of the digital security stuff. But one thing a quote I think I used in here is from my old buddy Buzzard that applies to this conversation we're having, that you can do anything you want as long as you can do it in moderation. If you have the ability to do heroin in moderation and, turn it on when you want, turn it off when you want, it's probably okay for you. Most people don't have that ability. The same goes for everything else. Like, I'm not saying don't eat sugar, don't drink alcohol, don't use tobacco, don't, eat fat, don't, whatever. Like, do anything you want as long as you have the ability to do that in moderation, understand its impact, and then do whatever countermeasure you need to do to make up for that impact. But if you're smoking a pack and a half a day and you're saying I can quit whenever I want, you can't do that in moderation, pal.
No, well said. Will says, I found out I was type 2 diabetic after I got COVID in 2021, but since then I've kept it under control, and they just pulled me off most of my meds because of a good diet and exercise.
Oh yeah, man.
Love to hear that, brother.
Yeah.
Love to hear that. So the next chapter is digital security, and that's obviously something that you are a subject matter expert par excellence. Tell us about digital security and why you decided to make a whole chapter on that.
I think it's really important. Everybody has a digital lifestyle now. Everybody has, phones. I think probably less young people have laptops, but everybody has phones. They have online accounts. They have passwords that they got to manage. Hacks and data breaches and all this stuff is becoming more and more and more common. James Bond wouldn't use the same, 6-character password on every single account he has. You probably shouldn't too. Like, you should probably take care of that stuff. It's probably one of the less interesting chapters in here. I get it. I understand, but it is a thing I feel it's very important. And, I'm not kidding myself that anybody's going to pick up this book and read it from cover to cover. But when the day comes that you are like, man, I need to tighten up my shot group a little bit on my, I just got this weird email from my bank account. I probably need to start locking things down. That chapter's there for you to go into and, figure out what you need to do. I realize that's the one that's subject to the most potential, content decay as it ages. I tried to make it timeless. I, tried my best and failed to stay away from specific product recommendations because things come and go. But I feel like I've chosen, the things I have recommended, I feel like I've have a good track record on the market and have been around for a good while and probably will be around for the foreseeable future. So if and when you need that chapter, it's there.
Yeah. Dr. T.C. Fuller's on. Good morning. He says, but Little Debbie snack cakes are delicious. Yes, they are, sir. If eaten in moderation.
I prefer her mom, full-size Deborah.
Oh dear. And I like your point about content decay. You wrote a massive book about digital privacy and security, and a lot of the apps and things of that nature that were recommended on there are defunct now.
Yeah, a lot of
they're on version 20. So it is incredibly difficult to write something like that. But I think just managing your passwords better is going to take you a long way towards tightening everything down, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mark is on from Ontario, Canada. Let's talk about, so number 7 is dress well and look sharp.
I'm glad you were looking at, because I forgot. I was going to look it up.
No, I got it right here in front of me, pal. And I think that, but what you're talking about, something that this generation needs, man. I never thought when I was a kid that I'd see adults and teenagers run around in freaking pajamas, man.
Yeah.
They just roll out of the rack, go do whatever they're going to do. And I would assume they go to bed that night in the same damn pajamas. It's mind boggling to me.
Yeah. Wake up, get out of the bed, go to the airport and get on the airplane. All wearing go out to dinner, all wearing the same thing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, there's a lot of times I don't leave the house here on the farm. But guess what I do? I get up, take a shower, put on my clothes. You know, this ain't an accident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely not.
It takes work, but I don't know why they don't do that. Dr. Fuller says, dress well and look sharp. Testified. Yeah, man. Dr. Fuller is that and then some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one point I make, it keeps recurring throughout this book, and I didn't intend for it to. It just did. Like, many of these chapters come back to get yourself in shape, be strong, be fit, be in good health, and that is your first step to like self-defense. Like, be in good physical shape, dressing well and looking sharp. If you've got a nice, strong, trim figure and good complexion of your skin and all this stuff, like that's step one. And this was probably the chapter that I was least knowledgeable in. Like, I'm not a fashion guy, but everything offered here is just good, solid, timeless advice. Like, if you're a man, you should probably own a suit. You should probably know it fits. You should probably know
how to iron your freaking shirt,
iron your clothes, how to polish your boots, man.
Yeah.
How to sew a button on, how to mend a tear. It's not difficult.
Yeah. So chapter 8 is all hazards preparedness. Again, you want to be competent and dangerous, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to be prepared. So talk to us about that, Justin.
Again, from direct experience of living through now 2 hurricanes here, having to bug out from my home in Southern California when wildfires were approaching, living on the coast for a decade and through 10 hurricane seasons. I've got a little bit of experience in this. I'm not the preparedness expert, but I do have some real world experience. And I've also seen what the other side looks like of having to rescue people 10 minutes after it starts raining because they don't have anything. They don't have nothing. Or having to.
So you didn't say this, and for those that don't know, are you still on a search and rescue team?
Yes, I am still paid volunteer search and rescuer, swiftwater rescue technician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just went through Hurricane Helene.
Yeah,
up there, which who would have thought a freaking hurricane was gonna kill God knows how many people and just wipe away entire towns in Appalachia. I mean,
that's why I moved to the mountains, bro, because we don't get hurricanes here.
And then suddenly, man, it found you.
Yeah.
And but your point, doing swift water rescue 10 minutes into the rain, like what were you thinking? You're trying to cross this freaking road. Can you see the stop sign, pal?
Yeah, literally. So it starts raining, I think Thursday night. River's coming up. It's either Thursday night. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday night because all day Friday we did water rescues all freaking day long. Is just from one to the other as hard as we could go. So we, early in the morning, it's like, hey, go over here to this neighborhood, like the creek neighborhood with a tiny little creek running through it. And all of a sudden houses are, foundations are underwater. So and it was fast moving water too. Anyway, I digress. Half of us had to break off and go somewhere else. And then we all get back together and we're going to, unload this whole trailer park that's now underwater. And on the way, there is a car in the middle of an intersection with water, all the way up to the roof of the dude sitting on the roof, standing on the roof. Unload the boat, paddle out there. It's like, hey, bro, what were you doing? He's like, I was going over here to this gas station to get cigarettes. And it's like, did you not see the news that a hurricane was coming and think maybe I should get 2 packs yesterday? Or, don't be that guy.
I agree. I turned off a documentary about Hurricane Katrina. And because it was, this guy was saying that Yeah, that night, the night prior to the Hurricane Katrina hitting, they knew it was coming. They had heard all of but for whatever reason, there was an arrogance there. And this organization that he belonged to, they all decided to just go party, in the French Quarter and burn it down and get drunk. And guess what happened? Other
Yeah.
business owners, because it was a business owners group, other business owners had boarded up and gotten the hell out of there, and they're sitting in Texas, having a mojito and chilling. And this asshat is like, oh, everything I got's underwater. And how come they're not getting here to rescue me? And I'm having to, with a hangover, chop my way out of my roof and get on the roof. And how come the helicopter hasn't gotten here yet? I'm like, bro, you created your own freaking chaos.
Yes.
And now you're pissed off that this was an African-American gentleman that, that the white man, why is he letting me down my roof? I'm like, oh, hold on now.
Yeah.
You had all the information to make a good decision. You chose not to.
One of my favorite quotes in this book, and every chapter begins with a quote from somebody. Some people are famous, some are people you've absolutely never heard of. But one of these quotes is from Lee Weems, which some of you probably heard of, firearms trainer. And the quote is, "Help may be on the way. You're already there." Right. And that can apply to whatever: first aid, firearms, self-defense, disaster preparedness, whatever it is. Help may be coming, but you're already there. So you should be prepared to help yourself first.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing this, James. James says, I had a stroke almost 2 years ago, overweight, stressed business owner that could barely move my left side. Now 40 pounds lighter, a bit more to go. I have most of my mobility back, working on building strength and greatly reducing medications since. You can make improvements no matter what. Man, thanks for sharing that.
Man, James, awesome. You sounds like you're having a really good outcome after a stroke. And that's incredible, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we get through the basic all hazards preparedness, there's parts in there about pets and sanitation. And again,
I feel like the sanitation is a big overlooked piece. Like I've got my beans, I've got my water, I've got my, I've got my guns first, because that's I'm going to eat those first, I guess, and then food, and then water, and then everything else kind of trails off from there. But if you haven't thought about where you're going to shit, that's going to be a big problem for you. If you live in an apartment, or you live in a place on city sewer that's overflowing and backflowing into your toilets, like that's stuff you should probably be thinking about now when things are good and you can order whatever you want off Amazon.
Yeah. Get a 5-gallon bucket and some trash bags and a lid for it. You can get on Amazon, and it becomes a little toilet, and then find a place you can bury those bags out in the yard or something. But and the toilets are not going to flush if you're
Or you can actually buy wag bags that, have the moisture. They're kind of expensive, but yeah, I have some of those that.
There's a way to do it, but you got to do it now while the sun is shining.
Yeah. I'm on septic. I can always haul water up to my toilet and, fill the tank, but, still have it, still backups of the backups like that. That may fail. I want to, I don't want to.
But you've spent a lot of your life living in apartments too, man.
Yeah.
Sure. That's talking about house of horrors.
And I talked about that in the book. And I was prepared for that when I lived in Wilmington, to basically turn the outside, the patio into the bathroom if I had to. And I think you should have not just a mental plan, not just an idea of like, oh, you go out here in the closet off the patio or whatever. You actually need the stuff to be able to do that, or your situation is going to become untenable pretty quickly.
So chapter 8 was, as we talked about, all hazards preparedness. Chapter 9 is physical security. Talk to us about this, Justin.
Okay. Yeah. This is largely from my locksmithing and security background. And some people may not know, for 5 years, I was a full-time instructor of covert methods of entry, lockpicking, key impressioning, all that good stuff, key generation, all the different bypasses, all the different ways we get into locks,
which you will be teaching at our course here next month. We've got 3 seats left. That's all, folks. 3 seats. High risk environment course. Justin's going to be there. Dr. Fuller's going to be there. And of course, Mike Seeklander is going to be there. Will Parker's going to be there. We've got an amazing week of training for you, Monday through Friday. If you have any interest in this is, a immersive experience. Go to shooting-performance.com. Check it out. November the 17th through the 21st. I apologize, Justin.
You're good, man. You're good. So this chapter, it's actually going to get retitled Defense Against Methods of Entry, because that's what it really is. It is how to defend yourself against someone getting into your house. Your home is your castle. I It drives me a little bit crazy when I see people who don't lock their doors from their home. All that latch on the knob is forced to keep the wind from blowing the door open. And Rich has sent me several videos of this, of criminals running from the cops, just running into the first home that they find with an open door. Like, you don't want to be in that situation. You don't want anybody who would come into your home uninvited is not a person you want there. So just as simple as that, all the way up. There's some more advanced, like if you want to get really kind of picky about your lock, some specifics about your lock, how to do that, how to talk to your locksmith about setting that up for you, cameras, alarm systems, how to configure alarm system, how to think about that, how to set up your rings of security from your furthest out perimeter, which is your neighborhood. You should develop an intelligence network that talks to you about what's going on. And it doesn't have to be the Facebook neighborhood watch, whatever. You can just talk to people. Cultivate the little reciprocity. Give them something, make them want to give you something back. I talk about that quite a bit. That's also in another chapter, but I'm big on building my asset network around your house. Like, your curtilage should be a ring of security. No one should want to cross that line off the sidewalk into your yard. And then finally, your home itself. Like, everybody thinks, doors are kind of where security begins and ends. Like, once they've made it your door, pal, you've already, now you're fighting to come back from what you've already lost. So I don't even want to, take a quick pass through the neighborhood and be like, nah, this ain't for me. Let's go somewhere else. Or if they do come in my neighborhood, I want them to pick my neighbor's house. I don't, but my neighborhood had the same opportunity to prepare that I had. So that ain't for me. That's for somebody else.
Oh, well said. Chapter 10, wilderness survival.
Oh, yeah.
And you may think, well, I live in an urban area. It's not really something, brother, you drive through wilderness if you're going anywhere. Yeah. So yes, this chapter is for you as well. So talk to us about this.
This is a thing that I probably thought I was perfectly prepared to write at 26 years old. And, also a gap I identified in my resume a few years ago of I don't have, other than SEER school, I don't have any formal survival training on here. I'm going to get some of this. And I went to some pretty difficult courses. One I would call a rite of passage, Randall's Adventure Training, Field Survival, man. Can't recommend it highly enough. I may do it again in 2026 with a buddy of mine who wants a good gut check.
You talking about Randall's?
Yeah, man, that is a freaking difficult course. But anyway,
let me know if you do. I think Grant might want to do that with you.
Okay. Yeah, I will. So having been to some of these courses, also I've been a volunteer, and now our structure's changed a little bit, and it's now falls kind of in line with EMS, so I can't volunteer for where I work for. So now I say I'm a professional search and rescuer, which is almost non-existent in the SAR world. It's a really fortunate position to be in. I've been through a ton of training, a ton of rescues, a ton of searches. I've done about a little bit of everything you can do in SAR, in wilderness SAR, mountain SAR. Done a ton of training, and this is a thing that I thought I could write 20 years ago, and I'm so glad I didn't, because this is seasoned with just so much more experience. It basically focuses on three things. If you do get lost, and you can't find your way out, sit your ass down, build a fire, build shelter, and, procure water, not necessarily in that order. If it's piss pouring the rain, you probably need a roof over your head first before you start working on a fire. If you're surrounded by water, maybe water is not your number one priority. If you're in the desert and it's 110 degrees, a fire may not be your top priority at that time. So it's kind of a, whichever one's most important. Build a shelter, build a fire, get water, basically just maintaining thermoregulation, keeping yourself alive until rescue arrives. That is the basics of survival, because most 99.99% of survival situations are sorted out within 72 hours. Most of them within 24, but we push it out to 72. We encapsulate a much bigger sample. That's really what you need to know how to do to survive most things. If you're some crazy long range elk hunter or something, probably need to be a little bit more, have a little bit more capability than that. But I don't even talk about finding food, because one, it's incredibly difficult. The idea that you're going to go out and live live off the land is I would say watch the show Alone. Have you watched Alone, Rich?
No.
It's a reality show. They take 10 people and they're completely isolated from each other. Every one of them's completely alone. They have their own camera gear. And it's basically you win $500,000 if you stay out there longer than everybody else. So if everybody else quits, they'll come out to you and be like, hey, you won. And sometimes these things go on for like 90, 100 days. Several seasons. These people freaking starve. It looks absolutely. I mean, they're like, some of them are taking down big game and they are still about to starve to death because they're not getting fat. They're not getting, all these other sources of vitamins, minerals, and whatever. It's, think you're going to survive off the land off, plants and berries and squirrels is, you need to get your ass rescued.
Yeah, 100%. What was that book? John Krakauer, great book.
Oh, End of the Wild.
Yeah, Christopher McCandless. Yeah. That didn't
so
work out.
He actually did great. The big mistake he made was not realizing this edible plant, like in the fall, like the concentration of some alkaloid in it, like shot up and became poisonous. But he also didn't realize that creek was going to rise so much he was going to get trapped in there. But
and I think if he would have went down another 400 yards or something like that, that was a passable place. So his reconnaissance was not all it could have been, should have been. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Next chapter, people ops.
Oh man, this
is a long one, man. A lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. What do you think about this one, Rich? So I'm gonna go over the list of topics here: how to give a handshake, how to be a charming conversationalist, how to tell a joke, elicitation, which I'm sure TC Fuller knows all about. Food and drink, how to cook the perfect meal, food and drink dining etiquette, how to be a good house guest, how to be a good host of house guest, how to be the perfect wedding guest. And then a couple of appendices, meal prep logistics for how to cook your perfect meal, and little, 10 or 15 page side rant on bourbon, America's only native spirit.
I liked it. I mean, obviously one chapter that I was probably relatively qualified to write given my years on recruiting and stuff like that. So yeah, I found it interesting. It's another take. I mean, to some people it's more, some people are naturally charming, just part of who they are. And some people are always going to struggle with it. Reading it, I was reminded of one day I'm in my office and I really didn't know this major. I was the director of training. So basically the sales and recruitment training for the Southeast at the time. And this major came down to my office and he had gold jump wings. His whole time was in reconnaissance. And he's like really an odd character. He comes down, can I shut the door? And I'm like, yeah, yes, sir. Have a seat. What's going on? I've never talked to this guy before. He's like, I want to be like you. And I thought he was screwing with me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. And he's like, people kind of gravitate to you. You have a way to talk to people, blah, 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 blah. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think I'm alienating people. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, shit. And I pull off a couple of books. I'm like, this is a good start, and just like a true autistic person, when I get the book back, I'll have to show you sometime. It's tabbed. I meant that he could have it underlined, highlighted, margins, like trying to understand people almost like we were insects. So I say that because you can learn some of it. This particular major, I won't say his last name, I never saw any improvement. So you can read the book, but if you don't employ the skills, that are in your chapter, it's never going to work.
Yeah, you have to do it, man. So
Yes.
I hear people all the time be like, man, you are so good at remembering names. And it's like, yeah, because it's fucking important to me. It's important to that person. It makes a huge impact. So I make a huge effort at it. Like when a person says their name, I stop them like, okay, hey, hi, Autumn, how are you? I say their name back to them. I file that away. And then when they come back, like, when I get when I'm leaving the conversation, when they come back to the table, when circle back around at the party, whatever, I use their name again. And while I'm standing there and other people are talking, I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm also like, if I'm at a party, I'm like, okay, that's Jerry and that's Dave and Sandra and Lisa, Dave. Yeah. Got it. It takes effort. It is not just a thing that happens accidentally. It is just like, being in shape. It takes effort. You
Yeah.
have to make a conscious effort, and you have to do it, and you have to exercise it. Yeah. So I wrote this chapter. As you know, I really struggled with this as a young man. And I think now with everybody, being in their phones and, without dating apps, I don't know what kids would do these days. Everybody, and I get this frequent, like I'm a new law enforcement officer, and a lot of older LEOs at my agency are like, we don't have to teach you how to talk to people. We don't have to teach you to be looking around. We don't have to, just the things that come with life experience. And, not everybody needs this. I think, and to your point, Rich, I doubt many 16-year-olds will read this, but these are I kind of had to learn this, and it wasn't I don't know, maybe I was born with it and it was beaten out of me. I don't know, but I was not a outgoing or very personable person at, my early 20s. It took a lot of very focused effort of like, this is where I'm at and this is where I want to get to. This is who I am and this is who I want to be. What do I have to do to get to that place? And, I relate a few specific challenges in here. But this was kind of a hodgepodge chapter. I wanted to encapsulate some of these things like, man, if you go to a wedding and you're the perfect freaking guest, it will pay dividends for you. You'll look like a freaking rock star, but that's not going to happen by accident. You need, like, the first wedding I went to with my, I was married to someone who we went through that stage in her life when all her college friends and a bunch of my friends were getting married. So we went to a million weddings together. And the first few, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, oh, we just show up at the church and, then there's dinner or something, right? Like, I had no idea what these destination weekend things look like. And I wish I did, because I would have gotten so much more out of them, and everybody else would have been like much happier to be around me, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. This is just, stuff I wish somebody had handed me this book at 16 years old and be like, hey, bro, all this stuff is coming at you in life. Here's how to be ready for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And I saw a graphic recently, or maybe I don't know what you call, like a chart, and it says for someone to be charismatic, they need to have two things really well. One is warmth, and the other one is competence. If you have competence, a lot of competence, but no warmth, you're going to seem stoic or robotic, right? If you have a lot of warmth, but no competence, you're going to be like, oh, hey, buddy. Hey, just,
yeah.
You're warm and friendly, but there's nothing behind it. So when you have those two together, the warmth of, their names, you make people feel like they're important. You treat people with kindness and stuff, but you're also competent. Like, I know you got a knife here. We need to cut this string. And you do have the knife. Yeah. The lights go out and you're the guy that pulls the flashlight out. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's an accident. The bride slipped and cut her leg, and the wedding still needs to go on, and you can go over and, go care of that, because you got in your go bag, you've got a boo-boo kit. And you're warmth and engaging and thoughtful and considerate. Man, you're the guy. You're the one that's people are going to gravitate to at the event later.
Absolutely.
So I love that chapter. Last chapter, Justin, firearms.
Yes.
And I know you, I'm sure you enjoyed writing that one.
I know everybody here is just going to skip to that chapter and read it first, but please don't. So yeah, again, this isn't Mark Hamilton still says still learning. Man, I am too. Absolutely.
Me too, buddy.
Every time I think I've got it licked, something comes along to show me I don't.
Yeah. So firearms, there's obviously we start with safety, defensive mindset. And this is so important, because while you and I both could teach a lot of people basic marksmanship, I make it very clear when I do my weekly training sessions with my students, like, this is defensive context. Context is important. So the fact that you kind of firearm safety, then you get right into the defensive mindset and the defensive and tactical use of these tools, these defensive tools, i.e. firearms, is so important. And it speaks to what this book is about.
Man, I probably could have written 590 pages of just the word guns, 280 million times, guns. And people would have loved it more than this. But I did try to have a very thoughtful, firearms are important. even if you choose not to carry a firearm or use one or whatever, they are a very much fact of life in the world and something that should be comfortable and competent around. If James Bond came across a Ruger P-89 laying in the ditch at the park, he wouldn't be like, oh my God, I got to call the cops. Like, he would know exactly how to clear it and, whatever needed to be done, he'd be able to do it. If someone came after James Bond, he wouldn't be like, I got to run, hide, fight. He'd know exactly, what to do. If James Bond found an old single action army and some weird French World War II rifle, he would know exactly how to, use those guns to tremendous effect. Start with talking about safety. I think safety rules are frequently interpreted as range rules, and they are not. They are life rules. They apply every second of every day. Every time you touch that gun, those are rules for life. I try to have a real in-depth, thoughtful conversation about those. I think we just go over them by rote. All guns are always loaded. Well, that's bullshit. Would you dry practice with a loaded gun? No. Would you clean a loaded gun? No. Would you install an optic on a loaded gun? No. Would you disassemble a loaded gun? No. So we know all guns aren't always loaded. This is a very thoughtful approach to firearm safety. Also, a lot of very tragic accidents as a result of a neglect of these rules, which, man, I hate to say one of them happened in the town I grew up in. Two couples are hanging out. The women walked to another house. They came back and decided to go through the woods and scare their husbands. And the husbands heard this noise in the woods and just started shooting up into the woods, killed one of their wives. Like, Jesus, like absolute bullshit. No charges were taken. They absolutely should have been. That's irresponsible. It makes us all look fucking terrible.
Exactly.
I don't understand it. Another case of a retired police captain. His 3-year-old kid got a hold of a gun in his car on Christmas Day, fucking shot himself. And no charges. He's good. He's learned his lesson. I know a dude in Florida, his son-in-law knocked on the door, jumped out to surprise him on his birthday. Dude pulled his gun, shot and killed his son-in-law. And all these are to demonstrate, financial, legal, moral, and social consequences. If you think there's no social consequences from killing your wife's husband, I doubt his relationship with his daughter is ever going to be the same. But there are consequences for all these things, and need to take those consequences very, very seriously. Defensive mindset. It doesn't start with like, this is how fast, you should be able to get your gun out and get a shot off in 1.25. It's about like, hey, you should be aware of the situation, what's going on around you. You should, be prepared to leave the situation when it looks like something's going to go down, because if you engage in something, your odds of getting hurt skyrocket. And if you may still win that gunfight and have to change a colostomy bag 4 times a day for the rest of your life. You may still win that gunfight and be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. That's what winning sometimes looks like. So we should try not to be in that fight if we can help it. Avoidance, recognizing, and I recommend a lot of books in this, recognizing the difference between social violence, which is, largely pride, ego driven, and asocial violence, which is there's nothing you're going to say to that dude to make him stop. You're going to have to make him stop. You're not going to talk him out of it. This isn't, social posturing or whatever. He's walking over here to sew and machine that knife into your chest. And if you don't do something about it, you're going to fucking die in this bar. Mm-hmm. Less lethal hands, unarmed combatives, like myriad of options before we even start to think about a gun. But gun is the, it's the easy button thing that we all think about. It only works it's only useful legally in an extremely narrow band of situations. And I would try to avoid using it if I possibly could, to avoid, hey, you can win the fight. The sheriff can be like, looks like a good shoot. Congratulations, son. And you can still get your ass sued for wrongful death. And they only have to find a preponderance of the evidence against you to ruin you financially, make your wife leave you, make your kids have to live with this for the rest of their lives. This is a big deal. This is big deal stuff. And I know I'm preaching to the choir on here. I know everybody here has a really thoughtful, approach to self-defense. I know Andrew Bronca's been on here, 1,001 times. But that's my take on it. And then we finally get into the firearms, which is, just basically, if I had to start with 0 firearms today, how would I build back? It'd be my concealed carry handgun, a long gun, and then a duplicate of, or a near duplicate of my concealed carry gun. Might be a little bigger, a little smaller, give me a little more capability one way or the other. But, and that's the book.
Yeah, that's the final chapter. And yeah, I mean, I agree with obviously everything you said. That's, I think you do talk about long guns a little bit in there, don't you?
Yeah, like I said, my if I had to build back from scratch today, it'd be my main carry handgun, my long gun, and then a duplicate of my carry handgun. And I talk about the reason behind all that,
Yeah. So I mean, for a lot of people, maybe they should skip right to that, because I'm telling you, man, my workers, let me explain why I say that. Okay. Let me qualify that remark, because it does sound bananas, but here's where I'm going with this, because that is the life or death, huge, crazy thing. And so many men, what Andrew Branca says is, I'm pretty sure it's him, like 99% of men, American men, think they can do three things: make love to a woman, fight, and shoot. That they don't need any training on that. They got it down pat. And I just kind of assume that, most people are probably, I mean, I know you and I, and everybody watching, listen to us, they're probably in the top tier of shooters.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is the top 2 or 3%, right?
Exactly. But I forget how far ahead of the average person you and I and the listeners are, until I run a construction company. So we decided at a little team building exercise, they all wanted to go shooting. They all got brand new firearms. So we came out there, and I was just literally gobsmacked by the atrocious handling. I mean, I had no freaking clue. They didn't know what they didn't know. And they thought, well, yeah, raised around guns, all this BS, lies that men tell themselves. And I think it took, by the end of an hour and a half, they were like, oh my God, can we do this again? Now I'm off of Mount Stupid on the Dunning-Kruger, and I'm really in the valley of despair. Like, I don't know what I don't know. Please help me here.
Yeah.
And it was an eye opener for them. And just something as simple as them walking around with a concealed, they had the wrong holsters for the wrong gun, where the triggers were exposed. I mean, it was all bad, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If somebody's already carrying, if they're already at that stage, they should probably read that first.
They need help.
Again, the design of this book is for the, hey, I'm 18 years old. I just moved out of my parents' house. What do I need to know? Or, I'm 16 and I want to, live some wild and crazy Justin Carroll life. What do I need to know? Like, hey, get your ass in shape. You worry about this other stuff later. But yeah, to your point, I absolutely see where you're coming. And if you think that's bad, a bunch of construction workers, you should go to the range with a bunch of cops.
Oh, I know. Trust me. I've been teaching cops coast to coast for the last 13 years now. And it's, going back further than that, but it's not what you would hope it would be. Let's put it that way. And one final thing.
I will say this. I do want to give a quick plug here. I'm not going to name an agency or anything, but for some reason, when I got hired, they permitted me to just walk onto the SWAT team. Everybody had to do this lengthy tryout process, and they're like, you are on the team. You're a full-fledged member of the team. And I was like, roger that. And honestly, I've been pretty freaking impressed with the just the marksmanship and gun handling and stuff of the SWAT team. I'm not going to talk shit about patrol, but we had a guy get hired who spent the entire time at the qual course telling the training officer how much he wanted to be on the SWAT team, and he couldn't pass the pistol qual. And the training officer's like, well, why don't we worry about getting you hired before you start thinking about the SWAT team? Yeah, I've been pretty favorably impressed with the quality of guys on the SWAT team. It's encouraging.
Yeah, very much. But they should be, or they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, and going back to these construction workers who are amazing men, and they're fathers and husbands, and I want them to be better, and they want to be better now that they know what they don't, they're walking around not knowing what they don't know. Just something as simple as a concealed carry holder. How many times are you going to go into a convenience store where there's going to be guns in there? Every freaking time, because you brought it in there.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to maintain custody of your firearm, And that's why, like this year, normally we do an entire day of combatives at warrior camp or warrior week, whatever. And we do grounded, standing, grappling, all this kind of stuff. And this year, I'm only going to do weapons retention. I want you to be able to maintain that firearm in an entanglement. How you draw it and maintain custody? How do you, if you lose custody, how do you get it back? Because I see this crap in convenience stores all the time. Some asshats open carrying. You do you, boo, but I ain't open carrying unless I'm like in backcountry Montana, and then maybe, probably, that's what I do.
If I'm carrying in a retention holster.
Yeah, bingo, right?
There's too many. Like, yeah, the idea that, oh, a crook's going to be, see your gun and be like, I'm not messing that guy's. Like, there's many documented cases of people being disarmed and shot with their own guns.
Go on YouTube, you can see it, all the videos you want. And those are just the ones that happen to be captured on camera. So again, that sounds like something I probably should learn how to do that. If you're an American Warrior Society member, we've got modules on it. So you can find a partner, get a barrel plug, and do it in a safe environment and train on your own. If you want to come and partake in that with us, please do so.
Yeah.
Justin, I've kept you on here an hour and 15 minutes talking about Competent and Dangerous, your new book, Mastering the Skills to be a Man Among Men. Any final closing thoughts?
Again, November 1st, it'll be on Amazon.com. There'll be a link through my website. I'm sure I'll have my old pal Rich Brown pimping this thing. Get this for yourself. Put it under the Christmas tree for all your people in your life who could be a little more competent, a little more dangerous. I appreciate you having me on and talking about this, Rich. It truly has been a labor of love. It's been, man, this thing I really poured my heart and soul into this thing. I'm extremely proud of it. I think, I've got one book that I wrote that Rich has seen that'll never see the light of day. Most of my books I've been kind of, I don't know, a little bit bashful about promoting, but I am very, very proud of this. It's taken me, 25 years of being out there doing the things to get to this point, to be able to write this thing. And I'm super proud of it. I feel like everybody will get something out of it. Some of you will get a lot out of it. Some of you probably been and done a lot of on here, especially been and done a lot of these things, and still think you'll get a little something out of it.
I agree. Gerald says, it's challenging to get a 16, 18-year-old to read a book, no matter how great it is. Dr. Gordon Watson says, thank you. Here's the thing. I say this all the time. There are filters in life. There are reasons why not everybody's on the SWAT team. There are reasons why not everybody makes it to Second Force Reconnaissance Company. There are reasons why nobody, everybody on here isn't a physician like Dr. Watson. There's reasons. There's a lot of filters. And if you don't want to pass through the gate, then, good luck. Yeah. I mean, seriously, good luck. I mean, I don't know what to say.
One thing I can say about this, I hope it finds the right, I believe it will find the right, it would have sucked for this book to have been out when I was 16 and I just didn't know about it. I hope this finds the right kid who's like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is what I want my life, how I want my life to go. I hope this finds the right audience. I'm sure, if this lands on one kid's lap, and he's like, holy shit, this is life-changing. This is how, this is the way out. Like, this is the, handed down from Moses on the mountain, then I'll be happy, whether, that's the only copy sold or not. I'll be thrilled for that.
Yeah. I love that approach. And that's it. I think you're I'm obviously older than you, but I think more about legacy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think more. I didn't think about that at 20 something. Didn't give a shit. I'm in the moment like this every day. Right. But now I've got some detachment. I'm not, trying to make the next paycheck and, whatever. The kids are grown. I'm very comfortable financially, now it's like, okay, what's the legacy? How do I want to be remembered? Yeah. Which again has got me back in the gym. I'm really working on strength and looking good and feeling good because I want to be remembered as, Grandpa didn't go easy. He did not go gently into that good night, to quote the Dylan Thomas poem, right? Yeah. Justin, I've got links to your website in here, swiftsilentdeadly.com, or is it Swift Silent Deadly?
Swift Silent Deadly.
SwiftSilentDeadly.com. There's a link in today's show notes. Please check out his amazing blog. Justin's one of my very best friends I've ever had. I've said that a million times, but even still, I read his blog. Some stuff, it's, obviously I kind of know that, or sometimes it's a twist on something I thought I knew, but I always get something out of it. So thank you so much, man, for putting that free stuff out there, and then for taking the time to do this labor of love, man. I enjoyed reading it, and I am honored by getting to write the forward to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that too, man.
Guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation, remember, the fight is coming. Be ready.